I found a notebook in my husband's desk where he'd rehearsed exactly what he'd say at my funeral. 3 weeks before I was supposed to die, I was hunting for a charger when I found the spiral notebook wedged behind a box of spare batteries. The first page had my name at the top and the word eulogy underneath, which is a strange thing to read when you have no plans to stop breathing. Below it, in his handwriting, were stage directions. Pause here. Look at her mother. Let the voice break. Around them were sentences about what a light I'd been, what he'd lost, how he'd carry on for the kids. I flipped on, and it got worse. Drafts of what he'd post online, who he'd call first, how long to wait before going back to work. And on the last page, a loose timeline with a date circled in red, 22 days out. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped it. I put it back exactly where I'd found it and said nothing. After that, I watched him differently. How he always made my coffee and handed it to me already poured. How he plated my dinner before his own. How he'd started insisting I rest more. That the exhaustion and the nausea and the fog I'd been describing for months were just stress, just anxiety. Nothing a few early nights wouldn't fix. I didn't confront him. I knew the second I did, the notebook would vanish and I'd be the paranoid wife who'd had an episode. So I got quiet and methodical instead. I told him I had a work conference and drove 4 hours to my sister's. I saw a doctor I'd never see again and asked for full blood work, and I told her everything. The notebook, the symptoms, the circled date. She didn't laugh me out of the room, she documented it. The labs came back showing something in my system that had no business being there, consistent with the dizziness and the bruising I'd been writing off. She gave me copies of everything and told me to go straight to the police, not home. I went to the police. And here's the part that nearly broke me. They believed me, but a notebook and a lab result weren't an arrest. Plans aren't crimes. They needed him to act or to admit it, so they helped me build something real. I went home like nothing had changed. I smiled. I thanked him for the coffee and quietly poured every cup down the sink the moment he left the room, eating only food I'd sealed and brought back myself. I wore the exhaustion like a costume, let myself look a little worse each day because I needed him comfortable, confident, on schedule. Meanwhile, I learned how to live like a ghost in my own house. There was a recorder in my cardigan pocket from the day I came back. There were photos of the notebook, the desk, the dates, time-stamped and already sitting with a detective. There was a bag packed at my sister's with my passport and the kids' documents. Every night I lay 3 feet from him in the dark, listening to him breathe, counting down his calendar instead of mine. On day 19, I made my move. I came downstairs looking gray and unsteady, gripped the counter, and let myself sink into a kitchen chair. I told him in a small, frightened voice that I'd been to a doctor, that something was seriously wrong with my blood, that they didn't know how long I had. I watched his face. He didn't look frightened for me. For one unguarded second, he looked relieved, like a man whose timeline had just gotten shorter and easier. Then he sat across from me, took my hand, and started practicing his lines on me. How brave I was. How he'd never love anyone the way he loved me. Almost word for word from the notebook. That's good, I said quietly. But I think the funeral version is better. You wrote yourself a voice crack right about here. His hand went still on mine. What are you talking about? The detective parked at the end of the street thinks it's pretty good too, I said. He's been listening this whole time. He shoved back from the table, but there was nowhere to go. He started talking fast. It was a story idea, a dark joke. He'd never have done it. I had it all wrong. I had to believe him. I just stood, picked up a bag I'd had ready by the door for 19 days, and walked toward the knock that was already coming. You might want to rehearse what you tell them instead, I said. You've got the rest of your life to get it right.